Hey, what's up, guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, I want to send prayers up for Keyontae Davis. Okay, hopefully I pronounce his name right. I believe it's Keyontae Davis. Now, this is a junior basketball player for the Florida Gators. Okay, and what happened is, unfortunately, he collapsed during the game yesterday. Okay, and it's a very unsightly thing to see. Okay, guys, and it leads me to this video, and this is going to be a very important video pertaining to COVID, okay, and everything that is going on. Okay, guys, now we have to stay patient, okay, and remain understanding, okay, during this time, all right? And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people frustrated about everything that's going on with COVID and some of the side effects in society, okay? And part of that frustration, much of that frustration, is due to the fact that people feel like, well, there's not enough people suffering from COVID, okay, to say facilitate lockdowns, okay, or to enforce lockdowns and social distancing and wearing a mask, okay. Now the thing is, guys, people are being affected from COVID even if they don't necessarily look like they are, okay? So, okay, we already know about the people that are that have underlying conditions, okay, who may be older and have other health issues, who may have to get taken to the hospital, put on a respirator. Those are more of the dramatic issues, or more dramatic situations, and that's more um, stimulating to the eye, where you can say, okay, I see why this is a problem, okay? But many people feel like, okay, I see why this is a problem, but this is only a small number in comparison to the whole population, for us to have to go through all these extreme changes for just a small group of people. Okay, now this is the reason why all these things that are being enforced is very important, okay, to all of our healths, okay. um now because, guys, they're finding constantly, daily, things related to COVID, okay, that they didn't necessarily predict to be associated with COVID. So we don't know exactly how this thing works and all of the effects it has on the body. Okay. Now, pertaining to the young man that plays for Florida, okay, and he happens to be from my area too. And what they are warning people about is a condition called myocarditis, okay? Now, this is very important, guys, because generally they find this in young athletes, okay? So this is the key. While people are complaining and think, it's such a bad thing and very frustrated with uh, lockdowns and the spread and who's actually getting sick and who's not getting sick even though they're testing positive, well, it's important because someone who is asymptomatic can still pass it on to other people who may end up being asymptomatic. And you think because people are asymptomatic that they're in the clear and this is not really a big deal for everybody to have to worry about. Well, this is the thing. COVID may have long-term issues that we don't even understand yet. Hence, you could be a young person, a young athlete who tests positive for COVID, and because you wasn't necessarily on a ventilator and had to go to the hospital and things of this nature, you may be affected in ways that you don't even understand, okay? So it appears to attack organs, okay? And specifically, they're getting more research about the heart and how people who may be asymptomatic or who may have been asymptomatic, but they tested positive at some point, okay? And they never really was down bad sick with it, but they pop up with heart issues or other organ issues, okay? So that's why this is important, because even if you're asymptomatic, okay, and if most of the people that gets it end up being asymptomatic, right, and nobody's really down bad sick, or not that many people down bad sick, well, you might not be down bad sick in that moment, but something can happen a little bit later on, okay, that your diagnosis a minute ago, okay, you know what I'm saying, it has an effect on you. All right. So while I'm not necessarily associating him passing out to the condition myocarditis, okay, what I'm saying is, and once they run some tests, they are starting to notice this trend in young athletes where at some point they tested positive for COVID, okay, but they was asymptomatic and appeared to be okay. And then, but once they run certain tests and things, they find out that they have more long-term issues. All of a sudden, a person that had a perfectly fine heart, they end up with COVID, and then, they wasn't really down bad sick, but now once they do a scan, they're finding certain organ issues and things like that. So that's why it's important to not continue to just spread this thing and think that, oh, I'm good because I'm young and I'm healthy and I'm an athlete and all these things, okay? Because we still don't, it's a lot that we don't understand about the condition, okay? Or getting COVID, all right? And even, a lot of us who are active and young and active should be like, man, because the thing about these guys is, being that they're in college and they're on sports teams and things like that, they, whether they're sick or not, they get tested. See, and then they end up, okay, they're positive for COVID, but they're not sick, and they would have never know they had COVID unless they got tested, because they didn't have any issues, they didn't have any reason to get dragged into the hospital to get tested, if that makes sense. And so that can be for any of us, okay? You know what I'm saying? Who are young and healthy. How many of us have actually been tested for COVID? Because many of us are not going to get tested unless we had a reason to get tested, okay? So think about how many athletes you come across already. Think about football, basketball, such and such is sitting out because they tested positive for COVID, but they don't look sick, and the only reason they knew they had COVID is because that it's standard, for them and procedure for them to get tested. Okay, but who knows what issues can be down the line, okay? And God forbid that it is, but what I'm saying is who knows, okay? And we can save a lot of people's lives. If this does happen to be a side effect from COVID, then we can save a lot of people's lives by not trying to rush into things or downplay things, okay? So that's the thing. This is not just affecting older people who have issues anyway. You know what I mean? Because they don't understand it, so they don't know how it can affect. Hypothetically speaking, let's say by now all of us have been affected with it, okay? But a certain amount of us, enough of us is young enough or healthy enough to not show symptoms, okay? But who knows what else it could be doing to our health, okay? That may show up down the line, so that we have to be respectful of that in the moment when we are trying to curb the spread of this thing, okay, guys? So in prayers to him, okay. But this was a opportunity to share that, because especially with athletes, this thing just came along so fast, where a lot of people hopes and dreams, there were. It was a halt put on it. Let's just say you're a kid in elementary school and high school, and your whole life up until this point, this just sprung about real fast. So your whole life you were dreaming about getting out there playing varsity basketball or college basketball and these things like that, and then all of a sudden it's a damper on your season and your goals. And some people got goals to be a professional, and things of that nature. So I understand the urgency and the anxiousness, okay, and the frustration, but your life is more important than any of those things. All right, guys, hopefully this was a helpful video. Peace.